Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream listening party of my new album, The Pool Project. I've set up here in the very pool house where I've recorded the majority of the parts of the album, so the vocals and the woodwinds. As you can see, I live in this place, which we're surrounded by a forest, and we live in this countryside cottage. And we were just kind of spending the lockdown times here. And we have about 1 week left, so I'm packing my studio down. And I thought, you know what, why not? Just setting up my vinyl player and a little rig here right in the pool house. And I think in this live stream listening party, we're gonna listen to the vinyl. Unfortunately, I only have the test pressing, but it sounds really good already. A little bit more of static sound, but it sounds great. And I've set up the library as well with a piano here. So if you have any questions or if you want to hear any kind of sounds one more time, I'm really happy to play it to you and answer any kinds of questions. So I have the chat open here, and I can answer your questions. So there's a little bit of delay, so I have to kind of understand a little bit how it works. So your questions will probably come in later. So bear with me if your questions are being answered a little bit later. So yeah, this is quite unusual, but quite fun in doing. I guess when you have kids or COVID, this is the modern way of playing a concert. So live here with you guys and sharing my music. But I hope the sound is okay and it's not too reverby here. I've set the microphone up quite close to my mouth. Otherwise, yeah, as you can hear on the album, it's quite a reverby and big sound. Let me just have a look at the chat. If you guys have any questions already, there might be some people hanging over from the walkthrough before. And yeah, just fire away your questions. And I'm happy to answer them. Kind of anything from production of the album. I will play the tracks. I will pause in between, look at your questions. Sometimes I'll talk on top of it. And yeah, I hope we'll have a bit of fun together. I've got myself a vermouth, a typical Spanish drink. The ice is already melted. I actually hope that the cameras will stay on and not overheat because it's around 34 degrees outside right now. And yeah. Cheers to everyone, and thank you very much for tuning in, and thanks a lot for your support with the sample library and my music. So I want to tell you a little bit of the backstory before we play the first track. After my first album, it was clear for me that I will do a second album right away again, because I just really love the process. And working with SA Recordings and Spitfire is just such an amazing experience. And I thought, you know what, whenever I find time, I'll do this again. And this time I was setting up a rig because in my first album, everything was really planned out and it was missing kind of the impulse moments, you know, whenever I have an idea, I wanted to record it or capture the moments. And so I thought I set up a live rig with my Juno, with my Wurlitzer, and sending it through effects and some loops, etc. And I just do some live performances here and there late at night or whenever, you know. And I record it, and with that, I'm going to make an album. But then we were living in the city of Madrid, very hectic area. Like, you know, it's a city that really never sleeps, and people are going out till silly o'clock in the morning, and we just had a newborn baby, and it was not the right place. So we were asking family friends whether they know a place where we can rent and stuff. And so this place came up, and we moved into the outskirts of Madrid into this cottage. And they said we can spend a bit of time here until we go to LA. Our plan was to go to LA. And then 2 weeks later, the lockdown arrived and this whole Corona thing. And so we were stuck here. Stuck is probably the wrong words, but we're here with our daughter in the lockdown days. And so basically, to come back to my album, the whole concept changed the moment I walked into this room, and I realized this is a perfect opportunity to record something in here. And my really good friend, amazing musician and brother-in-law came in here and started kind of singing, and I was like, okay, I've got to record voices in here. So yeah, that's kind of where the idea really started. And so the whole album turned around. You have like actually one track, Forest Glade, which we'll hear on side B. That was going to be the actual album. So all tracks were going to be in that kind of style, and then everything changed by, through the lockdown and being here in this space. And the first track actually is called Rainbow Fish, and it's about kids sharing things, because they have that amazing ability of just wanting to share everything at first, you know. So there's some olives in the plate. My daughter would offer me the last olive or bits of bread, and she would offer me, and it's quite nice. And Rainbow Fish is that Swiss children's book that talks about a fish that has like colorful scales and doesn't want to share at first, and loses all the friends, but then realizes that when the fish shares the scales, that's everyone is happy. And it's a silly little story that we in Switzerland we learn that in kindergarten, and there's a play and everything. But it really is it's a track about sharing and the lightheartedness of kids. So now I'm gonna be quiet and start playing you the vinyl. Please let me know if you can't hear anything, or if it kind of distorts, or this is kind of the first time I'm live streaming a vinyl here. So let me know through the chat. But here it comes, track number 1, Rainbow Fish. Sorry, they're a bit of an abrupt ending of the needle lifting off, but I could see you guys love the sound of the needle being dropped and whatever the noises of the vinyl, and I really love reading that because it's just great that music is being consumed in that kind of format. So you guys seem to have loads of questions. I'm trying to keep up as much as I can. I guess I can't really go back and type while you guys are here waiting. So, did you drop any music gear in the pool? Did you drop any music gear in the pool? No, but actually we had one mono room mic right above the... I wanted to see how this pool sounds right above the middle. So Juan and I... Juan, by the way, is the guy who does the solo voice on the library, which is my absolute favorite patch. You really got to try this out. It's so fragile, so beautiful. And he helped me engineering the session. So we had a massive mic stand. It was like an L shape up and into the middle. And sometimes it was a bit wobbly. We had to kind of like put some weights and stuff on it. And I was a bit worried about it. It was kind of a valve microphone. It gave it a really kind of springy kind of sounds. And I really loved it. And as we are in the kind of the technical setup, so I had these C414s right up here. So this view is good. Right up here above me, so here. And then I had the singers and the woodwind players around the pool with a ribbon mic close, and then this valve microphone right in the middle above hanging, which I just faded in here and there for a bit of just kind of a vintagey sound in a way. So let me see what kind of questions you had. Process of finding the sound in my head. I talked about it a little bit in the intro. So I think it just took a turn as I walked into this place. So my sound was completely different. It was more improvised. It was more like forest glade, where you can hear the main melody is written, but then there's a lot of improvisation going on, etc. And that was going to be the main concept. And when I walked in here, I wasn't sure what to record at first until Juan came in and sang, and I was like, you know what, voices. And then woodwinds, I was performing my old records with soplidos, this woodwind duo, bass clarinet and alto flute, and they're really amazing. From then on, when I knew what kind of color I wanted to use on my album, that's when kind of it formed in my head. And I then already knew the toolkit and the sampling was going to be really amazing as well. So I was recording the album in the day, so I had them over the whole day, separate days, so the vocals on the first day. And then in the evening, I had to do the sampling. So in the evening, why? Because the birds went to sleep. So in the morning and during the day and the sunset, you have loads of birds, and so it ends up in the record. You can actually hear some of the birds, I believe, in Lala, in the second track we're going to listen to now. It sounds quite nice and relaxing, but obviously in the sample library, birds' noises are no good. And so that was a little bit the process. Are all sounds recorded in a pool? No, so it's just the vocals and the woodwinds. The rest I've recorded in my studio, which is here around the corner. It's the piano that I have there and the synth and the rig. So I quite like the combination of the really close sounds of that double felt piano and then the voices in here. I actually really like the double felt piano of this library, as one of the developers here, Leo, said already. The guys were losing time over playing rather than programming the library. So this was quite nice to hear. The main inspiration for the album is being here. It's the place. In the first album, it was collecting experiences in different places, different countries, different setups, etc. And this one, like many of you guys, or probably everyone, like being somewhere in one place, stuck in lockdown. And luckily for me, it was a lot of nature here, and that was kind of the inspiration. And seeing my daughter growing up, and I just breathe a little bit and relax a little bit from the hectic lifestyle we've had before. The keyboard here on the side is an Impulse by Novation. It's quite nice. It's a smaller one. I believe it's 49. the, the keys are quite light, so there's like more of like a waterfall keys action going on there. Overall process and approach, I think I've talked quite a bit about it. If you have any more specific questions, please let me know. Vinyl, how do I mic up the vinyl? Yeah, so the vinyl goes, maybe on this view you can see it better. So the vinyl goes into the amp, and the amp goes into my UAD, and then I'm using OBS to stream into YouTube. And you have to do a thing where you set the UAD interface input as the monitors. So because OBS can only do 2 inputs. Anyway, I'm getting too technical here, but yeah. Piano impro, was that a piano impro on Rainbow Fish? Yes, that was, yeah. I had the accompaniment and the melody, but the rest of it in between, their improvisation. So I probably did around 20 takes or something like that on different days, and then chose the one that I liked the most. I guess staying still true to my kind of in the moment or capturing the moment. So taking just how I feel and play and not think too much and be like, oh, this wasn't good, and do it again. Or I quite like that because even sometimes when there's little mistakes, if the feel is great, I think that's much more important. Anyway, I want to play you the second track, which is called Lala. This track means basically water, and Lala was one of the first words my daughter was saying. So she was calling water Lala, coming probably from Spanish, which water is agua, and she kept calling it Lala, and I found it quite sweet. And because everything was recorded in a pool, etc., I thought this track it was just about water, and anyway, you can hear it's just, for me, this track means water. Cool. Thank you very much for all your lovely comments on the chat. I'm trying to keep it up, and I'm simply overwhelmed by all your really nice words. And yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's just very heartwarming. Thank you so much. And again, I'm trying to keep up with the questions here. Um, the mixing was the last one. For example, mixing and production. Okay, so how long did it take me to make the record? So I did start, as I said, thinking about having a live rig, etc., and the sound. So that, and then actually the piano. So, but that was before I moved out here. I got the piano, and actually finding the right piano with the right sound actually took me quite a while. I was driving around, playing probably around 30 or 40 pianos before I found the one that I really liked. And then I had a piano technician in the city, and then I changed that technician when I came out here, and he was really good. I could explain to him the sound I want and what kind of bothers me, and etc. And with the attack, the attack was a bit slow on the piano, and he did some stuff and changed some of these little belts, etc. And he fiddled with a pedal and the hammers and stuff. So we achieved that kind of sound that I really wanted. So I guess that took a little bit of time. I would just made a quick note that perhaps around 6 months conceptualizing took place. Like I was thinking about it. Oh, I could do this, I could do that. Then I walked in here. Then I was like, okay, voices, woodwinds. How can I do it? Like how many voices? 3? Should I get a female vocal? Like doing some tests, etc., with other vocal libraries and start writing. But then the actual writing process, like sitting on a piano and coming up with the ideas and maybe the motives, that was like actually in 2 weeks. But bear in mind, I did have my color palette ready beforehand. So, but yeah, the actual writing process was 2 weeks, but then the preparation was about 6 months. Then I recorded in about 4 days, but again, a bit of pre-production, etc., printing out scores and all of that kind of stuff. Then about a week of mixing, and then about maybe 3 or 4 days for mastering. So I don't know. It's almost a year now since I've started. Yeah, it's actually a year and a month since I've started thinking about the new record, and I think that's kind of these days what you need. Just really being able to put your head onto this. But again, it wasn't every day because I have my full-time job and at Spitfire and then also had kids and do some other freelance work, etc. So it was never a full-time kind of thing. But anyway, motive-oriented, I think so, yeah. I mean, I have little melodies, as you can hear, and then I kind of improvise around them, especially in this album was definitely the case. And I like that, having something that you feel connects with the idea, but then other things that connect with the momentum. Rhythmic ideas. I have to say I'm not a hugely kind of rhythmic or beat-driven person, so I don't write the beat and be like, this beat is really sick, and I'm going to do a bass line to this and then some chords. It's usually I write on the piano or perhaps on the Wurlitzer or maybe now also on the synth, and then from there I might add a bit of a shaker or some gentle rhythmic ideas, or I ask my good friend Juan Espiga to add some rhythm to it. However, in this album, I don't really have many rhythm-driven kind of tracks. This one that we've just listened to, Lala, the rhythm was kind of implemented by the synth arpeggio. Is having a child, I think the question was how it changes in making music. I could give the typical answer that it brings you back to your own childhood, and it makes you, look at a tree for 20 minutes or, observe an ant, how it transports a leaf or whatever, and that as such is so inspiring. But the other really good thing actually about having kids is that it makes you much more focused. So because you don't have much time, because they need so much of your time and attention, and when you do things, you do it really focused and really fast. So whereas in the first album I was almost working on it 2 years on and off. I had versions 14, 15 of tracks where I would leave it for 2 months, and then I'd come back and spend a week and be like, change the beat, or maybe I change the chord, maybe the bass sound could be different. On this one it's more like, well, the kids are going to wake up in 2 hours and I really want to get this track done. So you just, it pushes you and it focuses you to not do anything else. And I really think it helps the creative process to be just really focused and in the flow. Did Spitfire tie with Spitfire help me with the production, or did the Spitfire ties help in any way? So for this one, no. These are all my contacts, my friends that I've made throughout the years, etc. What Spitfire helps, obviously, having certain gear or maybe a computer or something through the company, and then obviously the record label who helps with the costs of the recording. If I didn't have that, I mean, I think then you just have different kind of boundaries. I always feel, sometimes people would go like, oh, if I had this, I could do this. But I think creativity is defined by boundaries, and I actually really like this. So, if you only have one microphone and one computer, I think you could do amazing things with it. It depends what you do. It doesn't depend on what you have, kind of thing. I know this wasn't exactly your question, but just as my answer, I think if I didn't have any gear or I didn't have the opportunity to record these musicians, it might just be a solo piano album, or maybe I'd do like overdubs and it'd be a 6-handed kind of piano or whatever. You'd find other ways to be creative and express yourself. Am I French speaking? I'm from Switzerland, so I used to speak a bit of French. Now my Spanish is much better, but yeah. I used coals for ribbon, and then on the ceiling there's nothing. I didn't treat the room at all. I just put some lovely plants in it so it looks nice on the documentary and on the photos. But it's kind of bricks here. So yeah, no treatment. The mixing and production. So I did quite a lot of production myself. So I shaped the piano sound with EQs, with delay. So what I did a lot with the piano was I had reverb on it. I sent that reverb through an echo, and that echo back through a really long reverb. So you have kind of this really close sound, but if I hit the piano a little bit harder, it would trigger all this chain, and then you have like a really long kind of icy, beautiful echo. And the vocals, I didn't really treat them that much. Tiny bit of EQ, not really much external reverb. And then, I mean, the mix, I think the majority of the credit goes to Fiona Cruikshank, who is an amazing mix engineer, and I heard some of her stuff. She did Dot Allison's album, and she did Keaton Henson's album, and just her work is absolutely fantastic, and I had the pleasure to work with her, and she just really glued it all together, and we worked quite closely, every day on the phone, etc. She sent me tracks, I sent feedback, etc. And it was a really lovely and creative process. So I'm going to play you the next track, and yeah, let me know in the chat if you have any more questions. Cool. Thanks again for your lovely words. I read Eric Satie there. Yeah, that's very true. I didn't actually realize when I was writing this track that it's really, really, really close. I mean, two chords in the intro are possibly the same, but anyway, then the melody goes off. But it does remind you a little bit of his famous track, Gnossien, no? It's called number 3, number 1, number 3, I believe. But yeah, thanks again for the words about the felt piano. I do absolutely love that piano I have, and unfortunately I have to leave it here. But again, fortunately, I've sampled it for the sample library, so I can take it with me, and you guys also can take it with you. I have to leave it here because I'm moving away again. I'm moving to the Balearic Islands this time. And the humidity there is so much different that the piano would just break. Here in Madrid, everything is really, really dry, very dry climate. And I think, again, it's a new opportunity. Find a new piano there and have a different sound. But this piano is so good. I mean, if you play the sample library, the low end is so rich and so warm. And I think that was missing in my first piano a little bit. So it's really warm and clear at the same time, and you have these the team built in these amazing functions of key release, so you can have no release and a really clear sound for when your director asks to have it, no noise, or you can have the releases all up and the pedal sound all up to have it really intimate and raw, and And someone asked about the EQ. It's already EQ'd on the sample library, so it's basically how I like the sound, and that's how I delivered it to the team. And yeah, someone said it's more busy with 2 kits. Yes, I have 2 kits as well now. So I had another kit around 3 months ago. So yes, it's insanely busy. So someone asked about option paralysis. So if you have too many options, especially if you compose in the box. I mean, my answer is try to limit yourself. I always set myself kind of a color palette when writing an album, or even, I mean, when you write a film, you set up a template, and you might speak with a director, and he gives you, or he or she gives you some hints or whatever, what they like. And I think it's key. Otherwise, I mean, there's so many sounds. Even if you just have Logic, even just the Logic sounds or plugins or whatever, it's just crazy. Just have some of your favorites. In Logic you have that option where you can have your all your favorite plugins, etc. And I have like maybe 15 there, and I just use those. Here and there I research, or someone tells me about another plugin, and I might swap it out, etc. Just to stay kind of modern and go with the newest technology, I guess. But yeah, limit yourself. Write a piano album with 1 synth, as an accompaniment or something like that. Just so you don't get lost. So to win the library and the vinyl, the bundle, I believe 2 times, I will ask a question soon. Let's listen to the next track. cutting off the lovely reverb tail there. Sorry, guys. Um, uh, Particular mode you're confident with. Improvised. Okay, thank you so much again for your really kind words. This is just so nice. Yeah, I'm very happy, very overwhelmed. Again, I'm okay. Did you forget to turn off the click track? Nice. It's a very clicky synth, and I like it. Um, um, okay, I'm trying to keep up with the question. Okay, so I'm leaving Madrid in a week. I think someone was asking. So I'm going back home to Switzerland for a few weeks. I haven't seen my family in over a year, like probably many people as well. And yeah, so as I was explaining, we were initially going to go to LA, but then the whole COVID thing happened. The visa thing is tricky, and lots of friends out there in LA tell us perhaps it's not the best time to move. I don't know if there's anyone there in LA and try to convince me otherwise. That'd be great. I mean, it's still in the back of my head in the future. I just absolutely love LA, and I would love to go and live there one day. But our plan was never to live in Madrid. It was only just to kind of give birth to our daughter and then moving on. But since the plans have changed a little bit, we were just looking where to move, where our kids can still feel at home. My wife's Spanish. It's getting a little personal here, but I don't mind sharing it. And then, you start looking at schools, etc., and kids growing up in nature and stuff like that. But then also, I like to be close to an international airport, or at least well connected in Europe. And also where culturally there's something going on. I mean, so these places in Spain are Madrid, Barcelona, and Palma de Mallorca. So, and also Palma de Mallorca, because of the tourism, is really well connected to London and England. And I'm planning to go back to England quite a bit more often again once we can. And so for us, Mallorca was the right decision. Also, kind of there's a lot of nature, etc. We have some friends there. So that's a little bit the brief explanation. Did I experiment with the water level? No, I haven't actually. Nice idea. However, when we moved in, there was no water in here. And it did sound too concretey. Like it did sound, I was like, I'm going to record something. And then obviously we filled in the pool. And then when I did further tests, I was like, thank God, it actually sounds much nicer. It sounds much rounder somehow, much softer. It was a bit harsh when there was no water in it. Actually, funny story, but part of why I recorded in here was 300, what was Christian's project? Music for 300 Strangers, I think. And I did my wife's dad, he's a passionate singer, and I recorded him inside the pool with no water. And I did think at that time it sounds a little bit too bouncy all over the place, the reverb. So I'm glad I've recorded when the water was in. Would have been interesting to know with different water levels. Amazing that someone mentioned Akimbo, my side project. Check out Akimbo. It's written Ekymbo. So it's a little side project of mine. When I lived in Amsterdam, I collaborated with this guy who is super passionate about drum machines. And as I was explaining before, I'm not a big rhythm guy. But so I met this guy on a night out. And we shared our passion for music and sampling, and he just came over, and I thought he came over just for a jamming with my stuff, and then he brought like this cool leather bag and opened it, and it was like full of like drum machines, and we just plugged in and started jamming, and we just jammed like 6-7 times, and then I had to move away from Amsterdam, and then we met in Amsterdam a few months later and chose our favorite parts and released a little album. So yeah, I'm so happy that someone mentioned that. It's really cool. The Fell piano has 5 velocity layers, and it was recorded in the studio, so the piano wasn't recorded in here. My influences for this album, I mean, I have a vinyl collection, so I'm a big lover of vinyls, and it's not a lot of vinyls, maybe like 70, 80 vinyls, something like that, and I just love listening to them over and over. So Crosby, Stills, and Nash I really love for vocals. I'm a huge fan of the Doors, of the 60s, 70s kind of blues stuff. You know, I'm a big fan of Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan. You know, obviously completely different than the album, but you know, who knows? Like somewhere, somehow in there, it's something coming in and coming out. I actually have a playlist. I believe the record label will share this playlist with you, where I picked 20 tracks. There is a guy called H. Hunt on there, really lovely piano album. I love this Ethiopian guy called Hailu Murgia, which is absolutely amazing. And then obviously Club del Rio, the guys who sang, the trio is in a band, Club del Rio. There are seven guys, I believe. And it's the equivalent a little bit, of Crosby, Stills, Nash, and like the European version of Buena Vista Social Club, which is another great influence. Then I have the Toure Raichel Collective. I'm not sure, some of you might know Ali Farka Toure, the West African guitarist. So it's his son with an Israeli pianist. They've released 2 amazing albums. I highly recommend them. It's the Paris sessions and the Tel Aviv sessions. Really beautiful. This Mexican singer called Chavela Vargas. Need to be careful, you Spanish speakers, that I don't say the other thing, Vargas. Niels Fram, I thought his All Melody album was just absolutely amazing, and I do have to admit the piano sound is heavily inspired by him. I would love to know how he does it. It's just really amazing, like intimate, and then he hits and he's got this lovely, really long echo, and it's just he does that wonderful, you know, he's just master of sounds, really. This girl called Hania Rani that I've recently discovered, I think she's really great as well. And Keaton Henson, always an inspiration. Oliver Arnolds, obviously, via Spitfire, we work a lot with him, and I think he is just very on the pulse of things, and just does beautiful stuff all the time. That's some inspirations right there. Some other questions were modes that I like to improvise. It's probably always close to blues and Dorian, as someone was hinting, because I think that comes from one of the first pieces I've learned when I discovered the passion for keyboards was Riders on the Storm by the Doors, and he uses heavily the Dorian scale. So I was playing that track day in, day out, or the solo, you know, I was learning it day in, day out for months or whatever, you know. And I think the Dorian scale is quite cool, but I don't really think in scales that much when I improvise. It's just, I think it's muscle memory. And in this last track called Margarita, it's improvised as well around these 3 chords. And actually, the bands that I recorded, the 3 singers that I recorded from Club del Rio, I didn't tell them that actually yet, but these 3 chords I have on this track, they're actually the same chords as they have on one of their tracks called Mareas. And I thought I'm going to use these tracks because they sing so beautifully on their track that it sits really well with their voices. And so I had these 3 chords, and I came up with a melody, and I again improvised a little bit on that, and had them sing over these 3 chords. That's kind of, and I mean, that track makes me feel at the moment at home, because our street is called Calle de las Margaritas, so the street of the margaritas, the flower. And in spring it's really lovely. There's loads of like margaritas in our garden and around, and it just makes me feel really kind of happy and at home at the moment. Sometimes I don't really know where my home is anymore. Traveled and lived in so many different places, but this track kind of does at the moment. It makes me feel grounded and connected. So I'm going to turn over the vinyl. I'm talking a lot, but I hope this is interesting, guys. Let me know in the chat if you have more questions and stuff. Going to turn around the vinyl, and we're going to listen to Forest Glade. Cool. Again, thanks for your very kind words about this track. Again, this track is actually reflecting how the whole album was going to be before I moved here. So this was the idea. This was a kind of improvised synth arpeggio going between chords and then looping it. Obviously, once you do it like 10 times, it becomes a thing, and you're like, oh, I love these chords, or I love this transition, etc. And then you go and do that again, and that's how it becomes an established track. But then the Wurlitzer is more or less improvised. I have this, again, it's a reverse kind of Wurlitzer that I used in Stone's Throw in the first album, which it's a really unique and an amazing sound. Though personally, I find it amazing. I really like it, and it features on here again. And yeah, again, this is one of the only tracks where I have a bit of rhythm. I have this drum machine that is also hooked up via MIDI, so it syncs automatically. And yeah, I'm experimenting a little bit with the echo machine, with the chorus echo I have. I'm playing a little bit with the tape, so yeah, you can hear that in the break. It goes kind of strange. So you have some other questions about whether I think about cinema, whether I love cinema. I mean, I absolutely love cinema. It's one of my biggest passions, beside music as well. When I was a kid, there was a lot of like Charlie Chaplin kind of flickering on our screen at home, just sometimes in the background, and I just fell in love as a kid with the music and the acting and the stories. But anyway, I think the question is whether I have a film or a kind of a scene in my head. I think I do. Like I try to, when I write, conceptualize already what I want to write about, or sometimes it comes out like that. And this forest glade is this out there. There is a little hill where you can go up. So basically, we weren't allowed to leave the house during lockdown, but as we're just on the forest and there's a little gate, we could sometimes just escape and go up on this hill, not on the main kind of roads in the forest, because police would come by on horses and would check that no one is there. But I would just go and take my daughter out up on this hill and watch the sunset or something like that. And there's just no tree there, and it's like a forest glade basically, and you see the sun go down behind the rest of the trees of the, how do you say, it's the crown of the trees. And that's what this track is about, and I think you can really picture that well while listening to it. And I usually have some sort of subject on tracks like that. I mean, yeah, talking about cinema, I mean, the next track I'll tell you before we listen to it, it's about a good friend of mine, a very good friend of mine back in Switzerland, and he's always been kind of true to me, and even though I've left Switzerland like many years ago, 12 years ago, and we just have this really insane, deep connection. Even if we don't speak sometimes for a month, when we speak, it's like, as if we just spoken yesterday. And, his dad has been going through difficult times, and it's just, I always really admire him, how he manages these kind of situations, He seems to have many times in his life situations where he has to deal with difficult things with his family or whatnot, and it's just always how he deals with that is just full of positivity and full of hope. And I talked with him a lot about his father's situation throughout these times, and this track is just about that. It's about being positive and, maybe getting some bad news, but like really kind of standing up and just be positive in a way, So, yeah. That's going to be the next track. And then the vocals, they are recorded as a trio, so not individually. I wanted, because they play in a band together, I really wanted them to sing together. They really vibe off each other. And sometimes I would just, we would workshop a little bit around my piano, but then sometimes after a while, when they knew the structure and the chords, I would just tell them, just improvise. And some of these takes are on there as well, where they've gone off and just play the harmonies or sing the harmonies they felt at the moment. Okay, here comes the next track. It's called Peter. Cool. Thanks again. I can see in the chats that you guys can sympathize with Peter. And yes, I mean it's hopeful, melancholic, and it should be that way. I think there's nothing wrong with writing melancholically. I think it's whatever makes you feel. Can be happier tracks or sad tracks, or yeah. I just think it's whatever comes out, and it doesn't always need to be labeled. But perhaps melancholy music is, especially in instrumental music, might be easier to write, if we want to use the word easier. But yeah, actually an interesting one on this production. I've recorded this track. It was really just out of a moment, and I like that. I had this track in the previous album with Max before, the track Max, where it was really a one take kind of thing, and it's the same with this one. After a conversation that really got to me, I wrote it, and that's literally how it is on the album. And I was going to leave it piano solo, but then thought I tried to echo this with the woodwinds, and I did. I wrote it, and this track we recorded after lunch break, and if you're Spanish, so the lunch break isn't just a quick sandwich 10 minutes behind your desk. It's a little bit of a longer lunch break. I mean, it was also me, I don't want to stereotype here. I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anyone here. And it's also nice, so we went to a place like, because I booked them a whole day, we were in no rush. So a couple of hours of lunch here and there. But, the first track after lunch was a bit, okay, sit down. And I feel it was played a little bit more. We all were not on our best game. It wasn't like the first track right in the morning we were fresh, and even me, I was like, yeah, this is fine. It was so much emotion. And then when I listened back to it, I was like, we should have just recorded it again, because there's this maybe not in the right octave, or I didn't really realize this, or even with the piano, and so I helped actually a little bit more, so you can hear on the track. There's like now a Wurlitzer in there as well, just to help glue everything together a little bit, and I think it works quite well. So now in the end, I'm happy again about the track, and I think for me, I think it's the most emotional track. Like, it gets me the most emotional, and that's just a little bit of information about the track. And I hope, Danilo, if you're out there, I hope your dad is doing okay. That's what I wanted to say to this track. I appreciate the comments about the shirt and my mustache. I was working hard on this one. Donald, no, I haven't combined the libraries yet. No, feel free to write a demo with it, and send it over to Spitfire. Am I going to swim? I was dreading this question. I was actually just texting with Kat, and I was like, if we beat the sample library cells on the first day, or I don't know how they measure it, and I don't know who holds the record. If we beat it, I'm going to swim. So Kat, who leads the marketing on this, will have to tell me if we beat the record, then I'm going to jump in the pool. Otherwise, only after the live stream. Okay. And I'm going to keep reading the comments. There's a couple more tracks left. The next one is a short one. It's called Togetherness, written right in the beginning of the lockdown, and it just is a simple one. It's really that I felt through the lockdown, it brought us all really close together. I mean, you might be able to relate, but I talked to so many friends on the phone or on video call. I wouldn't have maybe talked to them for another 4 years, but I talked to so many of these friends, and I touched base, and something just felt that we were all together in this one thing. Obviously, I know that some people were hit worse, but it's always like that, whatever happens in the world, right? Some people are lucky, some people aren't. But anyway, in our kind of Western world, and we were all, kind of united, and I talked to loads of friends throughout that time, and it was just always really, really nice to be like, hey, how you doing, and how's it going for you, etc. We should meet up. And so yeah, it's a track about that. Um, Again, yeah, very short piece, short and sweet, hopefully. Yeah, thank you so much for your very heartwarming words again. This one actually I've also used as a piano. Sorry, what am I saying? As a Spitfire demo um, for, was it Stratus maybe, for Oliver Arnolds. So I think this is yeah. If you, I think I read Oliver Arnolds before. I think this is probably the closest I was inspired by Oliver himself. Um, but yeah, I also do like the simplicity of this one. And this one, like the same with Encina, this was recorded on the Coles microphones, so it's slightly darker tone, and I think it just suited really well. And yeah, just a slightly darker vibe of the piano. Someone asked me, how do I stop myself from overwriting? Again, it's that thing. Maybe the kids helped me, you know, like once you've written it and you might be in the flow, you want to add something, someone's crying in the background and you have to go. But no, kidding aside, yeah, set boundaries, you know, just be like, okay, I'm gonna just write, I'm not gonna express this emotion that I have with just one instrument, and then stick to it, you know. And then maybe sometimes if you have another color palette in your album, maybe a synthesizer, try it and see, does it add something? Does it need it? Because I feel sometimes taking away things, it gets much more impactful. Who famous said, was it Miles Davis who said that the pauses in between are much more important than the notes you play, or something like that. And I can really identify with that. There's a lot of music out there that I feel it's would be much nicer if I'd heard just this person, even if it's very scraggly, playing on the piano. I think the fragility has a very beautiful thing to it. And it's the same with metronome. Someone mentioned metronome. I mean, you know, certain things, of course, you need metronome if you score a film and it has like some sync points. Yes, of course, you need metronome. But in general, expressing an emotion or something, I don't think it has like a clear kind of electronic kind of measurement or electronic kind of beat, you know, like our hearts, the rate goes up and down constantly. But yeah, nothing against metronomes at all, you know. I think actually, yeah, I mean, some of the tracks, they have electronic accompaniment behind it, so that's like a metronome. But yeah, in general, I write without metronome. Okay, so here we are on the last track, and actually, this track is one of my favorites, and the reason for it is because I have my very good friend David Del Cerro Turner playing guitar on it. I've met him a few years back at his place. I went to a jam session, and he was playing the guitar, and I was just blown away in the way he plays it. You know, it's exactly what we were talking about. He is someone who plays perhaps a little bit less, but whatever he plays, it's just right on the right moment, in the right time, and it's just always so emotional and meaningful. And what he added in this track is just so amazing. So pay attention to the guitar, and you know, I was all worried about, you know, like, should we set up the amp in a pool, or what mics should I use, etc. He rocked up with the guitar. He's like, where should I plug it, straight in here, or should I plug it into the chorus section? You know, and I was like, yeah, why don't you plug in the chorus echo? We had a bit of reverb, or quite a lot of reverb. And then we did it. I hit play, and he did a take, and it was really good. And we did a few more takes, but then in the end we were like, you know what? The first take, he just really nailed it and felt it. And it's the same on the piano. On this piano I have this tape on the strings, and it's on the library as well. It's called taped piano, and so the strings are actually muted, and I really love the sound of that. It's actually a trick. It's probably a more common trick, and people have done it before, but I didn't think of it. And another friend came last summer to visit, and he said he bought this piano and he tuned it himself, and it didn't sound that nice until he did that. You know, he muted the strings, and he put like a stone on the pedal as well, and it just kind of rang out in this really muted kind of weird way. And so the track is that, and it's called Distant Island, and it's a little bit like an outlook into my future, like just maybe a little bit of an anecdote, because we're going to move to an island. I feel like this is what's going to look like. Again, probably more on the melancholic side again, but have a listen for yourself. Oof. That guitar, I don't know about you guys, but that guitar goes straight into my heart. David, wonderfully played. And then again, the vocals and the breathiness of the woodwinds. I think it's my personal favorites, because it really it's kind of melts everything, and the piano playing isn't really the main thing. It's just the whole experience of all the collaborators, and I find that just so absolutely beautiful. And this kind of slide guitar is just played exactly on the right spots, and again, it's without metronome. It's just him like feeling what I felt. We didn't even play it together. Like, it's just just absolutely wonderful work. And yes, that's the tape piano that comes with the sample library as well. I'm like getting all carried away or listening to it. I haven't listened actually to the album in a long time. Once you finish the stuff, you kind of don't want to hear it. So it's quite nice coming back to it after like maybe a couple of months of not listening to it. And again, that guitar work for me, it's one of the highlights of the album. Unfortunately, the guitar is not on the sample library, because I personally think it's hard to translate this into a library. I mean, there's probably libraries out there that do it well, but anyway, I decided not to do the sampling for the guitar. So yeah, I actually got a reminder on my album that I haven't done the competition yet. So Becca, you're texting me on here. Can you let me know? I need to do one question or two, because we're doing 2 bundles. Let me change the view here. This thing is fantastic. This is the Atom Mini Pro, where you can do live streams and stuff. I keep forgetting switching between this and that camera. Well, anyway, now we're on here. So you can win the bundle and the vinyl. And my first question is, this might only be the only question, but anyway, first or only question is, what is the band's name the vocal trio plays in? The first one to answer gets the free library and free vinyl, I believe. By the way, the vinyl player is a RPA. I got it in Amsterdam. They had it in a shop, discounted, because it was like an exhibition model, and I thought it looked quite elegant. And the amp, and I'm gonna replace it one of these days. I think it's great. Pioneer A10. It's not the best, but it's a good standard kind of thing. 2 questions. Oh, okay. Yeah, so someone got it there. I believe Alberto, Club del Rio. That was the first one. Yeah, loads of people know it. Elbow. Nice. Club del Rio, yeah, amazing. Yeah, guys, check them out. They're an absolutely fantastic band. Yeah, looks like Alberto definitely got it. My second question. What could I ask? I was only prepared for one. Vinyl and bundle, you guys are getting. Oh, Alberto is getting. And one second. Yeah. What model is the piano that features on the album and the sample library? There we go. Waiting for the reply. Yeah, so you can listen to the album on all the streaming services, on Apple Music, on Spotify, on Tidal, etc. No, what model? What's the... Yes, there we go. Someone got it. Oscar. It's a Petrov piano. I bought here in Madrid. Yeah, congrats to your to the winners. Petrov was the answer, and Club del Rio. I believe we have 2 winners there. So yeah. If you have any last questions, guys, please let me know now before we disconnect. Also, yeah, you can reach me through the website or through Instagram. Send me any questions you might have. And yeah, unfortunately, you have to be a bit patient with the vinyl, because apparently there's an industry-wide kind of delay with the vinyl production. I'm not exactly sure, perhaps because of COVID or something like that. But yeah, it might take quite some time for the vinyl to arrive. But if you want to buy it and support my music and the record label, that'd be amazing. Check out the other artists on SA Recordings as well. Amazing artists. Dot's album was just released, Heinbach, etc. Really exciting stuff. And also, yeah, check out the Spitfire website to follow new releases, or to check out again the walkthrough if you've missed it of my library, and all the information should be on the website. Yeah, and you can reach me wherever you like on the socials, and I'm happy to give you more answers. Thank you very much for listening and hanging out with me, and again, it means a lot, all these heartwarming words. And yeah, I'm really happy to share my music with you, and I'm glad it's so well received, and thank you so much again for all your nice words. Yeah, much appreciated. Sending the vinyl player again is RP1. Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for the pool party. Yeah. I'm going to go swimming now. I don't know the numbers. I'm going to turn the camera off, but I'm going to go swimming now. I'm boiling hot. It's about 33 degrees probably still, or around 30 degrees. Anyway, I'm going to disconnect now. And yeah, thank you very much for listening again. It was a pleasure hanging out with you guys. And bye-bye. Degrees probably still, or around 30 degrees. Anyway, I'm going to disconnect now. And yeah, thank you very much for listening again. It was a pleasure hanging out with you guys. And bye-bye. Degrees probably still, or around 30 degrees. Anyway, I'm going to disconnect now. And yeah, thank you very much for listening again. It was a hang out with you guys. And bye-bye.